Travis when he gets home. For those of you who've followed me for quite a while, know that I have a Urim and Thummim. Yeah. And I use it to reveal the signs of the latter days in the heavens for you, just as Abraham did. If you don't believe, it's your fault. And so, interestingly, this morning, the moon is in the High Priest constellation. And, as with the death of Sister Holland, it still has 4 falling stars in Aquarius, the High Priest constellation. And it's because in the Egyptian documents, the symbol of a man pouring water over his head is a high priest. It is the Paleo-Hebrew letter M. And they're too complicated to explain Paleo-Hebrew, as this video is not about that. But Moses contains the letter, and and Emmanuel contains the letter. And so, if you are unaware, Joseph Smith's church is in the learning of the Jews, and it involves revelation of signs in the heavens. Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, reveals the type of Judaism that it is, and that is Jewish Kabbalah. And so, when we say Latter-day Saints, we are apocalyptic, or at least we were under Joseph Smith. And so, as the learning of the Jews, we are not Christian. The Bible and the Book of Mormon were written by Jews, thus in the learning of Jews, not by Christians. And so, when you see different character names as the learning of the Jews, you're supposed to see them as the same hero character for the Jews of the latter days, that being Emmanuel by name. And so they use Jesus in what's now called by Christians Gospels. And so the Book of Mormon, when referring to the prophecies of the Jewish version of Emmanuel named Jesus, they will use the name Jesus in the Book of Mormon. We are not Christian. Jesus Christ is not our Christ. And it is abominable to be Christian, because you are anti-Semites by creation. Roman Emperor Constantine. The Book of Mormon, the intro by Joseph Smith, when published, says it is written by way of the spirit of prophecy and revelation. It's not literal history. And so the Book of Mormon is a book of prophecy in the learning of the Jews. It is talking about revelation of the latter days. I'll keep going over this with you time and 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 time again. And Mormons refuse to believe. And I'm going to go over Alma, the older, and I will demonstrate how the authors of the Book of Mormon, which, yes, Joseph Smith did not write the Book of Mormon. Sidney Rigdon's the major author of the Book of Mormon. I meant to look that up and present it to you first. And Joseph Smith Sr., because Jr. allowed Martin Harris to steal the 116 pages because his child died, had to rewrite the 116 pages for Jr. Joseph Smith Sr., by the way, is the Jewish Kabbalist in the family. He was part of the New Israelites, not a member, but he attended their meetings as often as occasion would permit. Who really wrote? Linguistic science has established, if I can get the right picture on my screen here, this fact: they don't know who did the 116 pages. That was my contribution. And so Mosiah so that's Alma, so that's Mosiah. There is a heavy influence by Rigdon in Mosiah. But there's some parts, well, looks like there's Abinadi who's quoting from Isaiah, and then there's some Malachi stuff apparently. Well, I don't know if there's Malachi in Mosiah, from what I can recall. But yeah, this is why you see visions and dreams in scriptures. It's because they're trying to tell you something. And so, for example, this morning, as always, I had a dream, but I remembered it. I had multiple dreams, actually. Depending on if you get a normal night's sleep, you can have upwards of 3 different dreams. And despite dream time being slowed down significantly, because in my dream, action seems to take just a few minutes, and then I find out that I was asleep for an hour. And so it is a different time zone with your dreams. But most people don't remember their dreams when they wake up, and so they believe that they don't dream. You dream. That's part of the REM state process. Otherwise, if you deprive yourself of sleep, you begin to hallucinate. That's why your brain needs to process your life. And so in my dream this morning, when I woke up, I recalled that my deceased mother, died on the 12th month, 21st day, 12, 21, 20, 21, which 3 times, sort of, into 21 is 7, and that automatically triggered the memory of the dream I had with President Hinckley giving me the key card to his office. Yes, Mormons, the key card of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. when he was dead. And it had the number 77 on it. So, very interesting. And so, yeah, dreams have been a big part of my life. As I've studied them, published about them, as well as many other things that I have gifts of that other leaders who claim to have the gifts because of their position don't. And so, yes, this gets Mormons angry, and they don't want to listen, and they run away and hide, they're in denial, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, my mom, we had a flood in the dream, and my mom goes out into the flood, and I'm chasing her down, trying to stop her and save her life from getting drowned in the filthy waters of the flood. Sound familiar? Tree of Life, filthy waters. My mom's name is Judy, the female form of Judah, which is the female form. Yahud is the masculine form for the son of Jacob, Israel, which is Yahud, Prince of God. Don't listen to false prophets who lie to you about being translators or claiming to get it from Mormons as translators. They don't have the gift. They're wrong. They lied to you to deceive you, to take you away from the learning of the Jews. And so, yes, I see my mother go into the filthy waters. She's refusing to listen to me. My mother represents the church. The church are Mormons. Mormons are refusing to listen to me and going into the filthy waters and drowning. She didn't drown, but she did get submerged under the waters. And because she didn't drown, she was even more stubborn. I can handle it. And so because I was spending my time trying to save my mom, another guy comes to my mailbox and to my apartment and stole valuable books and money. And so I'm now at his apartment and I'm doing a thorough search. You know, he's upset with me, but he's not physically violent because he knows I'm going to beat him up. I'm already pissed with him. And so I'm going through trying to find all my stuff. And then finding other stuff that he had been stealing. And some of it was damaged. But, yeah, you can see how the brain is processing things. As I did the video yesterday about Mormons draw near, is it that one, or to utter destruction? I think it was. The title had utter destruction. Watching Mormons descend into utter destruction. Where I'm now getting chunky because we've got a month left, guys. Technically a few more days than a month, but it's next month, 9/11. That's the prophecy of Joseph Smith. It's not my prophecy, but without fail, over the years, people have tried to say, oh, it came and went and nothing happened. No, it did happen. You weren't paying attention. But this is the bicentennial year of the day that shall burn as an oven. And 9/11 is the date encoded for us in prophecy. And so the Book of Mormon itself, this is why Joseph Smith was able to make this introduction. In 2 Nephi 25, verse 1, talking about Isaiah, Nephi is saying, I too am writing like Isaiah in manner of prophesying. So automatically, Nephi is not real. And the stories are not real. And likewise, Isaiah, not real. He's a prophetic character by the particular author. And that's why people believe that there's a Deutero-Isaiah and other crap with a documentary hypothesis crap. It's because he's combining Egyptian stories into what his book is being called Isaiah as prophecy for the latter days. And so because of the popularity of his book, other people quote from it in their books of prophecy, such as the name Emmanuel, which is the Egyptian sun god at noonday. And so you see that in the Book of Mormon. You see that with Joseph Smith and his visionary accounts. Who appears to Joseph Smith in the first vision? And who appears to Joseph Smith in the second vision? You gotta pay attention. Look for patterns, identify anomalies, and use Joseph Smith's key to interpreting prophecy of Scripture. Section 103, verse 16. The hero character, Emmanuel, is going to be a future Mormon of Mormon parents. And the Mormons are the Jews, depending on the story. Sometimes it could be the Philistines. Sometimes it could be the Lamanites. Not necessarily the Nephites. Depends on the story and how it's being told. You look for the protagonist, you look for the antagonist, who is the prophet of the great and abominable church. And then the people that follow the particular antagonist or protagonist determines what the story is prophesying about. And so Alma is, you do this by memory, I guess. I don't think there's particularly much. But Hosea chapter 7 begins where Limhi is the son of King Noah, who was the son of Zeniff. I explained the book of Ether for you last night. The prophecy of that. And it looks like Mosiah 11, they then actually get to the story of King Noah. And so, yes, King Noah is a wicked man because he's practicing polygamy. I don't understand ex-Mormons. They want to believe liars. And so, Zeniff confers the kingdom upon Noah. And Noah immediately is a wicked person. He exercises unrighteous dominion as soon as he gets a little authority, as he supposes. But his authority is not to be the president of the church. Zeniff came out of Zarahemla, where Mosiah was the king. But because he's all by himself back in Nephi, even though the Lamanites are getting tribute from him, he's a king, and a tributary king at that. And so then Noah becomes the king. And so they don't have king powers as King Emmanuel. He's the false king. He's an imposter. He's a usurper. Jacob, in case you didn't know. And so this is how you're supposed to understand the story in the learning of the Jews. And so he has, as his leadership, 12 priests. So remember, the Book of Mormon was finally finished and published in 1829. And then 1830 starts the church with the Book of Mormon. Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball did not join the church until 1832. The coup of Brigham Young did not take place until 1838. And then the assassination of Joseph Smith, with the permanent coup by Brigham Young, 27th of June, 1844. And then I did the video about Section 102 about the High Council of Joseph Smith, which is not the 12 quorum of missionary apostles. The missionary apostles only have authority to baptize. The High Council Court are the high priests. Elders for the apostles. High priests for the High Council. And that's separate from the presidency of the church. Joseph Smith was the president of both the president of the church and the president of the High Council. That was Joseph Smith's organization. And so here, before even the Quorum of 12 was created, and before the High Council was created, before the church was created, the Book of Mormon is giving a prophecy of a man who will usurp the church and only have authority to baptize like the Quorum of the 12 apostles. Do you see how awesome these guys are who wrote this book? And Mormons don't believe? They draw near to the Book of Mormon with their lips, but damn, they do not believe it. Mormon chapter 8 verse 33 says the Book of Mormon is a book of revelation, thus confirming Joseph Smith in the intro. That's where he got them from. Those three passages, technically. And so, understanding this, you now see how Abinadi is Joseph Smith. That he is judged, which in Hebrew is Dan. Danites. Remember Samson? The tribe of Dan. There are reasons for this. Samson, if you haven't been watching, translated from Paleo Hebrew, is son, king. The N at the end is for king. And thus Alma, Emmanuel. M, high priest. N, king. King and high priest. Melchizedek. Melech, king. Zadok, high priest. That's the acronym. And then Amen has the universal symbol of the sun to distinguish it from Melchizedek. And so, yes, he has many wives and concubines. He's wicked. He's practicing polygamy. And yet, ex-Mormons, they just go on a frenzied froth blaming Joseph. Who was the one that told you? Oh, the women held hostage by Brigham Young and his Danites, who lied to those women and then sex trafficked them to celebrate that sex trafficking event on the 24th of July every year, with parades where government officials and police are in the parade. Not just one of the priests of King Noah, which was Christopherson this year. He is no Alma. And so, yes, he's tithing his people above and beyond the tribute that they have to give to Caesar, the Lamanites. And so this was so that he can be a lazy king. Priestcraft. And thus his priests also. And also his priests and their wives and concubines. He put down the priests consecrated by his father and consecrated new ones in their stead. And so it doesn't say, well, I'm trying to find out if Alma is younger. But I guess it doesn't matter. And so, yeah, the temples are finely built as the people are poor and suffering under tithing. Section 119, which is a forged document. Joseph Smith didn't write it. Check the date of when it supposedly was written. The same year as the coup. Interesting. And so, Abinadi, there's dualism in prophecy. My big prophecy dream of 1986, the summer of 86, involved the prophecy of both my failed marriages. For example, I'm 16 years old. President Benson's now the new president of the church, and he came out with his to the youth of the noble birthright, where he said pregnancy is a pernicious evil, quoting Miracle of Forgiveness of Kimball, which was quoting Packer in a conference talk. As well as denouncing music and movies that are R-rated and going on a porn kick. And so if you haven't been watching, especially lately since I just created the meme not too many videos ago, in the Mormon temple created by Brigham Young says it's Lucifer who shames women and their bodies. And so anyone who shames women and their bodies are followers of Lucifer. Very simple. All Mormons are in denial and refuse to accept it, even though it's in their temple. You're being wicked, Mormons. And you purposely delight in being wicked and deny that that's the case. And you know that the doctrines in the temple are from Lucifer anyway, because of the keystone symbol, which you are also in denial of. And so yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the great and abominable church, the antagonist of the stories. And so not only is it Joseph Smith's church, it's also the future church. And so Abinadi, since he's murdered, is Joseph Smith, murdered by Brigham Young and his 12. Oh, wow. Willard Richards shot him in the back. Very sad. To quote the father in Independence Day. A Jew. And then John Taylor, also in Brigham Young's 12. And then the Joseph Smith Papers just tears Brigham Young to pieces. It's humiliating for this church to publish the Joseph Smith Papers. But now you understand why they're keeping a sacred secret about what's contained in the Joseph Smith Papers. They're deceiving Mormons into bringing them out, but not saying, because of the Joseph Smith Papers, we are now making the following corrections. Nope. And so Mormons believe no corrections, everything's fine, as the church has been telling us. And it's not. The Joseph Smith Papers condemn and expose this church, just as the Book of Mormon exposes this church. And because of the deception of the prophets of this church, Mormons are deceived, and they become weaponized in their ignorance. Ignorance leads to hate, hate leads to violence. And thus you see Chad Daybell and Maury Bello as examples of that, as well as all sorts of other crimes by Mormons in this valley. And so, yes, this church is an exact pattern match with King Noah. Filthy rich, neglecting the poor, fine buildings to increase the value and gain more money, but also at the same time using tithing to pay for it. It's also a land grab to take back the land from the Lamanites, from the United States, etc., etc. They are exposing the church's plot to overthrow the government in the latter days. And so Alma is one of the wicked priests who, after hearing Abinadi and being cast out for trying to say, hey, he's got a point here. You know, he's quoting from the post-Babylonian influenced Ten Commandments. That's another of my contributions, ex-Mormons, by saying that the Sabbath day, the Sabbath day needed to be kept holy. He's revealing that it's not the pre-Jews, pre-captivity Jews, which are Egyptians. And Babylon was the first to create a 7-day work week, with the seventh day being a day of rest, because the number 7 for them was the bad luck symbol. And so the 7th day of the week was considered a superstitious day where the king ordered no work. And so that's the origin of the Sabbath day. Sabbath being closely similar, Saboa, 7, universal symbol of the sun, at the end instead of the T, which is the crossroads of the sun in the latter days in Paleo-Hebrew. Yes, the Paleo-Hebrews prophesied of the latter days even with the creation of the Phoenician alphabet, which is the exact same as Paleo-Hebrew. That's why I call it Paleo-Hebrew rather than Phoenician. See, scientists call it Phoenician because it's in Phoenicia where they found it. And so I just call it Paleo-Hebrew because it's pre-Babylonian captivity. Because once the Jews were taken captive into Babylon, they altered the language and turned it into Semitic Babylonian Hebrew. So it is different. But again, I'm digressing. And so, having been kicked out, Alma only having authority to baptize, because Brigham Young only has authority to baptize. Every single Mormon through his church, the Church of Joseph died with Joseph. It did not get properly succeeded. Brigham Young usurped it, became the majority because of his Danites who purposely joined to overthrow the church. Might makes right. And so Brigham Young, as the president of the 12, King Noah, his apostles have only authority to baptize. That's it. That's all. And so we, as Mormons, as men, which Brigham Young took away from women too. Joseph gave it to you. Women, 17th of March, 1842. They're in the Joseph Smith papers. But ordained women won't refer to it. Frustrating. But the Melchizedek priesthood? No. We only have power to baptize. That's it. We are as Alma, or the wicked priests, which are you Mormons. Oh, right, you're wicked priests. Gotcha. But that's it. No patriarchal blessing, not authorized. No temple ceilings, not authorized. Thus, the temple needs to be set in order. Anybody remember that from section 85, verse 7? The one mighty and strong? This is what Joseph Smith is prophesying to you about. He's prophesying his church will be usurped and destroyed, and that it needs to be restored in the latter days by the man like Moses, Emmanuel, the Mormon, who comes out of the great and abominable church. So just as Alma came out of the great and abominable church, so too will Emmanuel. Do you see the prophetic power of Joseph Smith Sr.? He's the one guiding this whole book, even though Sidney Rigdon's the major author, because they had to keep the book a secret from the world who are trying to murder whoever's writing it and destroy it. That's what you see in section 3 of the Doctrine and Covenants and section 10 of the Doctrine and Covenants, which is not 1828, it's 1829. Joseph Smith Papers reveals 1829. So it only took a month and a half. No, technically, because of Mormon. It's actually Moroni. He says, apparently I've got time. Let's put in the words of my father. Now let's put in the ether story. Now I've got some things to say. Why? Well, it's because Joseph Smith in 1828 let the 116 pages get stolen. And so Joseph was in a timeout for the whole year. And during that year, Sidney Rigdon now has more time. Because they need to let the potential threat die down. And sure enough, it did. Martin Harris has come back and is apologetic and remorseful and wants to be a part of it again and is willing to pay for the publication of the book, even though Joseph Smith had already paid for his house in the new Harmony, which was no longer called Harmony, Pennsylvania, as part of the cover story during that year sabbatical. But yeah, understanding the real church history in the context of the Book of Mormon is fascinating. And so Alma is now in an exodus. He's taking Mormons who will listen and believe, but he's only speaking the words of Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. Because he's not the high priest of the church yet, the king of the Nephites yet. Seeing the pattern here with the Exodus? And so this first period of time at the Waters of Mormon is on his YouTube channel. It's in secret. The church can't identify who's watching him and listening to his videos. But yeah, the president of the church does find out and seeks to put an end to his YouTube channel. Sends spies to hunt them down and sends the military after him to murder them. Technically him, because he's the betrayer. You catching on yet? I'm not coming out and saying it, even though I have in previous videos. And so they take their group and they leave in an exodus. And it's before the destruction of these King Noahites, Xenophites, who are going to be destroyed by the Lamanites. And so Alma and his people are able to flee and get away before the destruction. And if you're thinking, oh, is that this year? No, you missed it. It was in 2020. Sorry. Now you're in the situation of Mulek instead of Lehi. Lehi is Alma taking his people out of Jerusalem, out of Nephi. Mulek was there with the Mormons who didn't believe and leave during the destruction. Limhi. See the difference? Alma is Lehi. Limhi is Mulek, the son of the king. Ta-da! See the pattern? And nobody's listening anymore. The bombshells are at the end of this video. You just get bored with the intro, You don't think I'm ever going to get to this part. And so, yes, doing these videos are for the archives, for Zion. I'm assuming I'm going to get there. I don't know how. But, yeah, I'm the Limhi Mulek situation now. As are you guys in that situation. And so, and yeah, less than a month. Assuming that they're prophets. Nelson can prove me wrong and prove Joseph Smith a false prophet. Which will, again, preserve you to give you more time to repent. But, you know, he wants his Zion back. It's going to happen. And so, yes, to finish up the story now, since nobody's listening. Actually, we still have a little bit more to cover. During their exodus, the Lehi version exodus, the priests who fled in the destruction found Alma and his people and held them hostage, which is strange because they're 11 men and I'm not sure how many, but apparently it was less than 11 men, so that they couldn't fight them to the death. But anyway, they were taken hostage, and of course they tortured them, especially Alma. Right, Mormons? And so this is part of what I have seen being fulfilled. It's because Mormons didn't go in the Exodus. We are under greater bondage, and the church was able to perform more death threats on me, attempts to assassinate me by more tortures because of that. And so in that situation, there's a crossover with the Limhi part. And so then eventually they are freed by one of the sons of Mosiah. No. I think they just get freed, because the sons of Mosiah aren't until Alma and his younger son. And so that's not the case. So they do escape. And it seems like it would be involved with that, but they get back to Zarahemla. And then Alma becomes the high priest, the king and high priest, the Melchizedek. And so when we get to the story of the book of Alma, it's the son of Alma. And he then is confronted with Nehor. And that's a different story. But Alma, the older, was able to teach his son about his experience under King Noah, and yet Alma, the younger, rebelled with the sons of Mosiah. And so, yeah, he becomes the first and chief judge over the people of Nephi after he was struck down. Jesus corrected him. But, yeah, in this particular case, the son Alma is now Emmanuel of the latter days. And Alma is back to Joseph Smith again, with Abinadi being Joseph Smith also. So it can be confusing if you're trying to get a literal interpretation of the prophecies, like in my dream with my mom. If you're going to say, my mom's alive, and she actually was drowned in a flood, and the flood is coming and my mom's going to drown. No, my mom's dead. It's not a prophecy dream. It's a dream symbolism of what I'm going over in my mind the past day, which I talked about in my video. I'm trunky. I want to get to Zion. And so even though I'm freer than before, I want to get to Zion to be completely free. And yes, there's going to need to be some work done, because nothing's going to be given to us for free. We kind of need food production and clothing manufacturing and housing built. You know, mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem with an observatory and a temple kind of need to be built. But yeah, no monetary system of government, by the way, in case you're thinking you're inspired. No. Book of Mormon tells us no monetary system. No barter, no trade, none of that. No money of any kind. Because once you do that, you now divide the people into rich and poor. And the Zoramites are a perfect illustration of that.